We are on.
Yes.
All right. Hello, I'm Malachi.
I'm Luke.
I'm Nova.
I'm Stefan.
And we're from the Santa Barbara Middle School Teen Press. Today we're here with...
Mike Mills.
Hello.
We're going to ask you a series of questions, and there's no right or wrong answer. If we ask you anything you don't want to answer, if you don't like the question or whatever, you can just be like, no, or I don't want to talk about that.
Although you were born in Berkeley, you grew up in Santa Barbara. What was growing up in Santa Barbara like? And what would you say are some of the most significant things that you took away from that?
So I moved to Santa Barbara in 1970, and we lived on San Leandro. And it was really different. It was like kind of more weird and bohemian. Like even Montecito was like, there was a lot of like big fancy houses, but they're also like totally run down. Like the house I lived in was kind of totally run down. And we all hung out in the creek, and in that creek you could go all the way to Miramar Beach under the freeway, or you could go all the way to the mountains. So it was basically like be home at dinner time, my childhood, and we all could cruise around anywhere. I remember going to that Vaughn's and like the Coast Village thing, like ride a bike there, ride a bike downtown. My dad was the director of the art museum, so we had like a lot of parties at our house, and that was kind of fun. And there was a lot of kooky old Montecito wealthy people, like Mary Steele, I'm trying to remember some names, Lovelaces, and they were like real characters. They were like really kind of nutty people. And so that was exciting. I remember being very foggy all the time. Skateboarding a lot. What was it like? I think it's really different than now, just economically. It was still a wealthy town, but it was like, there was a lot of hippie people there. There was a lot of like Sunburst Farms had all these kind of like Hare Krishna people you'd see all over the place. And I remember that, I'm not sure if I'm lying, if I've concocted a story, but I think I remember my Montecito Union bus going up kind of around those big houses, like sort of past East Valley. And there was like ones that are run down and kind of like a squatter families were living in them. And the bus stopped and picked up a kid who lived there, but like in a squatter style, then we would go to school. So it was like really different. I'm not sure if that's true, but I think it is.
You told a story related to your father's life in Beginners. How did the rest of your family respond to this? And how did responses from members of your former Santa Barbara community affect you?
This is funny. This is a funny interview. So you mean like my dad coming out in the film? In response to that? Is that what you mean? There was a, oh my gosh, what was it called? There was this amazing gay community in Santa Barbara. And they really rallied around my dad, because my dad was also a widower, right? He was 75 when he came out. My mom had just passed away, and they were married for 45 years. So he's dealing with being on his own for the first time, and then coming out. And there was an amazing bunch of different gay pride community things, and just like community stuff. Like I remember there being this like, a couple nights a week, all these guys would meet it was like a coffee thing, and they would all just drink coffee and talk. And there was like a movie night, and there was just so much stuff for my dad to do. And this group of people that really embraced him. I remember he's involved in the Prime Timers. That's for gay people over 50. And he loved that. And I think he was pretty embraced. I don't remember any weirdness or hostility. I think there's probably some people that backed off from him, from his life, that were his age. But it was pretty fun. My dad was a sort of a wilding older gay man. He was really into it. So he partied a lot. He had a good time.
We read that for 20th century women, you were inspired by your mother and sister and their love of underdog, misbegotten, and impossible houses. Would you start by telling us about the houses you mentioned?
So for 20th Century Women, I got to go back and we shot all over Montecito, like all the places I walked around, and creek beds and Miramar Beach and all around my old house. So that was really fun. So the house that was on San Leandro, it's probably like God, the house is probably worth so much money now. Like literally $10 million or something. It had a rose garden maze, it had the creek, had a pool, this big old like 1910 Spanish colonial house with like a pond with a fish in it that the raccoon would get. But literally it leaked everywhere. You could see daylight, through the walls. My mom fixed it all up, mostly herself. And, back then, if you're director of the art museum, it's kind of like being like the director of like the English department at a college. Like you weren't making that much money. So somehow we could afford it, And it was very run down. My mom was constantly working on it. I constantly smelled like turpentine or strippies. Like she's always stripping paint or doing stuff like that. And then she bought a few other places that she would fix up. There's one right by the Riviera Theater. It's called Hidden Hollow. It's like a bunch of little houses, and she would rent them out, constantly working on them. My memory of my mom was like a cement bag on her shoulder or like asking me to dig a ditch or something like that. So a lot of work like that all around town. Always trying to buy some weird place that was like messed up and no one else wanted to buy it. And then often she couldn't buy it because it was just too complicated.
Your mother's passing was in 1999. And we read that you spent 3 years developing the script for 20th Century Woman. Since the film was released in 2016, it sounds like there were about a dozen years between saying goodbye to her in person and starting the film to honor her. Please tell us about getting started on the film and the journey you went on writing the script.
Okay. So, yeah, my mom died in 99, and then I made my first film called Thumbsucker, which wasn't really about her, although it has a real strong mom thing that Tilda Swinton played that did evoke my mom for me a bit. And that was the first time I wrote and directed a film, and I wasn't like a good writer at all. And like when I was in Santa Barbara Junior in high school, I was a horrible student. I just avoided school as much as I could. So it was a long road to get to be able to write a script. So and that was Thumbsucker. But my mom dying made me feel like, okay, I was 33 years old. It's time to do my own films, time to have my own voice. Then I did Beginners, like 2010 or something like that, and that was about my dad because he came out. And it was only after that I was like, let's do Mom and Sister and Santa Barbara.
What were the most important things about your mother that you wanted to capture?
Sort of like half therapy, half interview. What's the important things about Mom? So okay, I was born in 1966. My mom was born in 1925. So in the 70s, she was 40 when she had me. None of my friends' parents were 40. Like they were. It was really weird. She kind of looked like a man. She had short hair. She wore pants. She did everything that men did, not that women did. She was completely a fish out of water. And Santa Barbara was really weird for her. She used to say, Michael, you need to leave this town as soon as you can. Because she had mixed feelings about Santa Barbara. So I was trying to capture that. Like what an odd fish out of water she was, and like out of her moment in history.
You've also talked about the film in terms of honoring your wife and female friends. Is this a correct interpretation, and will you tell us about that?
Yeah, so growing up in Santa Barbara, I had my mom, super strong. My dad was gay in the closet and very strong man, but also like not doing like man role, not like patriarchal father man role. And then I had my two sisters, really strong characters, really beautiful, amazing, totally independent, strong women. So my house was like a matriarchy, and I think I've always been attracted to like strong women as friends. Most of my friends are women, and so I wanted to make like a woman's world film seen from this kid's perspective, but like where women have all the power, women are the most interesting, women are the thing that he wants the most, which was very much like my childhood. Even had a female dog.
You have two sisters in real life, and we read that Greta Gerwig interviewed one of them to prepare for playing Abbie in the 20th Century Woman, which implies her life story was reflected in the film. What about your other sister?
Katie Mills is my other sister, who is a Meg, or now her name is Megan Ace. So Megan was my sister who the character that Greta Gerwig played was kind of based on parts of it, because it really related. Meg turned me on to punk music, photography, and Meg had the same cancer issue that the Greta Gerwig character has. I got all that right from Meg. So it really related to everything else. My story related to motherhood, like really related to that film. So that's why I picked that. And I feel like it's really, okay, it's easier to make a film about your dead parents because they're gone. And you just have to know in your head that when you see them later, you have to be able to answer for whatever you did. But living people are much different. It's like an invasion of their privacy. It's very complicated basing something on a living person. And I personally don't really want to invade my sister's lives too much. And I asked Meg's permission, and she was happy to do it. And it was a part of Meg's life, which was sort of in the past. And I really kind of avoid trying to make portraits of real people in my life because it's their mystery and it's their business. I don't really want to invade their privacy.
Both as journalists and as kids, we really enjoyed your movie, Come On, Come On. You mentioned before that it reflected some aspects of your relationship with your son. What was your experience writing Come On, Come On?
So interesting coming off. So my kid is their pronouns are they them, and they're just a kid. They're neither a boy or a girl in their feelings. What was the feeling? So similar problem. I like to make movies based on people I know and love and like really have seen, and therefore I might make a decent movie because I've really seen it, you know, and I could write something with like real details and complexities and stuff like that. But I don't want to invade my kid's life or mess with their mystery of their life, especially because they're like 6 when I started writing it. So it took a long time. First, I just thought I couldn't do it, but I wanted to do it. But it took a long time to figure out, well, I could write about this and this and this, and then all this other stuff, like their gender, don't talk about. Like that's their business. And then there's stories from other kids I know and mixed in there. And I figured, if I make the dad figure like an uncle, it's like kind of different than us, and Joaquin's so different than me. So I found ways to make it not us, while still coming from like my love of being a dad, and my love of my kid, and my love of like all the crazy stuff my kid has kind of like changed in me. So, yeah.
Were the kids' interviews in the movie scripted? If not, how did you achieve that level of realism?
Passing a mic back and forth. They are not scripted, and those are all kids that we found in those different cities that we lived in. And a lot of it is just like making them feel really comfortable from the first time you talk to them to when you talk to their parents to the whole way through, trying to make it like mellow and not seem like a big deal. The problem is Joaquin was doing a lot of the interviews, Joaquin Phoenix, and it was right when like the Joker film was having its most advertising and all that kind of stuff. So sometimes Joaquin would come in, and they knew it was Joaquin, and Joaquin would come in and they go, "Oh, it's the Joker." And Joaquin was just really good at being like, "Oh, that's cool. Let's talk about that later if you want to talk about that. But I'm really interested in your jacket. Like, why do you like that jacket?" And Joaquin was really good at like shifting the focus onto them. And Joaquin really loves people, but like also young people, and is really aware of like power inequities and tries to like make it kind of even for people. He's really good at that. So it's a little bit of like all of us on the film crew being like very few people and just being chill and respectful. And a part of it was like the magic of Joaquin's like talent, being able to like focus all the energy on the other person.
What was the most interesting thing you learned about yourself while shooting the film?
Making films is really fun because you're with so many people, and it's like really fun, intimate, playful thing. So I know this before, but it reaffirmed how much I like actors, film crew, not being like when I'm writing, it's just me in this room and it's kind of lonely. The dog is here, but he doesn't talk. So there's not a lot goes on. And then you get to like interact with all these people, and it's really kind of intense and hard and lovely in that way to like have all these people you went through this intense experience with. We shot in New Orleans. I don't know if you guys have ever been to New Orleans. It's really beautiful, wild, spiritual place. And I learned a lot about that, like having sort of a spiritual life is really important to me.
We've read that you thought that picking the right actor for Jesse would be a long ordeal, yet you almost immediately picked Woody Norman. How did you know he was the right choice?
So Woody, he's just really good. I mean, it's like there's no fancy answer to that. He was really great on tape, and he was doing the scenes. He was auditioning the scenes, and he was just really, really good. The really magic thing about Woody, so he was 9, 10. He didn't care what I thought. So that's a superpower. And so many young kids who are actors are taught to like be very obedient and very do what the director says and just be very, do everything you can to make him happy and do everything you can to make the camera happy. And Woody doesn't care about the camera, didn't care a whole lot about me, would tease Joaquin all the time, tell Joaquin he wasn't a good actor, and made Joaquin laugh a lot. And he's very nice too. He's not like a punk. He's a sweet British kid. He's a British kid, so he's doing an American accent the whole time. So, but whatever, he had his own sense of himself and his own sense of like what the scene should be, and that was super important.
On the Alleged podcast, you recently said that your best chance to make a film that has real value is to write about things that you can look at a close range and over a long period of time. Yeah. You also said that you're more comfortable being like a journalist, watching people you love and then trying to explain them to strangers. How does that affect the writing process?
I can barely make up anything. So I'm kind of screwed if I don't have something good in front of me. And like right now, like I love making films. It's my job, supposedly, and I don't know what to do, and I can't figure out what to write, and it's kind of horrendous. But I'm not gonna force myself to make something in a way that's different than what you just described, because it's like how I know how to do it. So either there's gonna be a movie about a dog, or I don't know what's gonna happen, because it's the only person around. Yeah, it's kind of what I'm doing. So I do love that. There's so many different ways to make films. There's so many people good at just like total fantastic, crazy stuff they came up with. I like writing in this way where it's based on things I've seen. That's what I do.
What would you say are the advantages and disadvantages of making something so personal?
Well, the advantages for me, it's a great way to make a movie. Or you have something gold right in front of you. You have like hopefully something that's not all about yourself. Even if it's a really personal movie, it's like about someone you love. And I think there's some kind of power to that. That sort of generosity isn't the right word, but like you're really intertwined with someone else. So I think there's something powerful about that. The negative is in the film world, you tend to get kind of dissed for doing that. You're kind of thought of as like, oh, those are just little personal movies. They're not like big real movies. So that's a funny thing I didn't see coming. Well, like right now for me, if you run out of people that you can make a movie about, you're kind of screwed. And what's another negative? You have to be really careful with handling people's lives that you're messing with. It's a very sketchy situation. You can easily go wrong. What if I ended up making a movie about my dead dad coming out that I didn't like? Right? That's like really nerve-wracking. So on all my movies I had that. What if I made a movie kind of about my kid that I didn't end up liking? Like how horrendous. So that it ups the stakes in that way that's not always fun.
In an interview with NPR, you mentioned an idea from a producer of This American Life, Starlee Kine. She said that recording simple, everyday moments made them immortal. Tell us about making your observations of your family immortal.
It's a good you guys really listen to all this stuff? You did? A little bit? You had to? So yeah, so Starlee works for This American Life and different other shows and has her own show called, oh God, what's it called? The Mystery Show? It's a great podcast you should listen to. You should interview Starlee. Anyways. Okay, here's the trippy thing. People think I made movies about my dad, my mom, and my kid. When I watch them, I don't feel like they're that. There's some weird transformation has happened where I'm watching a movie about Joaquin and Woody. I'm watching a movie with Christopher Plummer, who's not my dad, or Annette Bening. So I'm watching this process that we all went through. And so for me, they're weird hybrids and mongrels. They're not like Woody's not my kid. And there's something really lovely about starting from a totally personal place, transforming it as you write it and meet other people and work with them, and it becoming its own different thing that's actually not personal anymore. And there's something magic about that for me.
Were there any moments in the movie that were especially challenging to direct?
So there's a scene. Well, it's really funny. So Joaquin Phoenix, who is an amazing actor, and I admire the hell out of him. For him, the hardest thing to do is like naturalism, those like little stuff, like coming in the room and saying hi. Like he hates that. So just getting him to do it is really hard because he's just like, I hate naturalism. It's the biggest lie that ever happened. Like people sitting around acting as if they're not acting is the biggest lie that's ever happened, and it's horrible. So that was really hard to convince him to do a movie like that. But then lovely. Then there was big scenes. People I don't think maybe realize it, but like there's a scene in New York City where the kid kind of runs away from him and ends up jumping on a bus. So that's like totally controlling like 5 streets, 300 extras. There's the bus. There's maybe like 4 or 5 cars. There's like 8 police that you're navigating with that do the whole thing. But just like 300 extras in New York City in 15-degree weather, where just helping them go to the bathroom, eat lunch, and stay on top of it, and then or do the same thing every single time for 20 takes. And so that sort of large-scale fun. New Orleans, similar thing. We had a parade. There was about 300 people in the parade and a band and all the stuff. And but both those days went really fun. It's a different kind of shooting. It's a little bit more like a military operation. You have to be very organized. So it's either that, having all that stuff, all those people, having that much to take care of, or just having one little thing, just encouraging Joaquin to walk through a door and say hi. Either one of those are the hardest part.
Out of the whole movie, what scene did you connect with the most?
So when you make a movie, I edited that movie for almost a year, partly because of the pandemic, and I was home with my kid, Zoom schooling, till like 12, and there was no world to finish your film for, so we just kept editing, and I finished under budget, so I could do that. But anyways, by the time you're done editing, and then you do like sound for 7 weeks, and then you do like color for 3 weeks, and then you do conform for another like 3 or 4 weeks. So, you've worked on it for so long, you hate it. It's just over. You're sick of it. It's I watch it once at the premiere, and it's really nerve-wracking. It's like I'm about to throw up the whole time, and I'm convinced that everyone hates it, and I'm actually seeing glitches in the film which aren't there, and like I'm hallucinating that it's going really bad. And then maybe some people were crying afterwards, and I thought, oh, they're crying because it was just that awful. And so it's like a horrible experience for me in some ways. It's lovely to have all these people watch your movie. It's the reason you do it. But at the same time, it's like flying on a plane but outside on the wing. It's like not fun. And so like I don't even know what the film is in the end. Like I don't have a favorite scene. I don't have a favorite anything. It's sort of like this traumatic experience I went through. I could try to have more of a normal answer for you. A favorite scene. Just little ones. I really like the whole end. I like the end. I thought everyone did a really lovely job, and I liked just that thing of, you guys are kids still-ish, teenagers. It's really trippy when you're growing up and there's kids around you. Like my kid doesn't remember things from a year ago, doesn't remember things from 2 years ago. So it's like you all are like constantly, I'm sure your parents say this, like the 6-year-old version of Hopper's gone, never to return. You know, I love that version. You know, the 8-year-old version's gone, never to return. That now they're 10. Like even 9-year-old version is a little different. So there's always like passings of these, you know, this time going by. And so that was really meaningful to me. So to try to like talk about that or put that in a movie was fun and meaningful.
You've accomplished so many things. 20th century women. Come on. Thumbsucker. Beginners. Out of everything you've done, what is something you enjoyed? What's something you're proud of?
Well, I mean, all of that is, and a lot because of all the people I work with. When I first started doing films, I came out of doing like art and graphic design. So it was really weird all of a sudden to be around 30, 40, 50, 60 people. And now I love I think of directing as being like the host of the dinner party and all those people are your guests. And because my parents had so many dinner parties in Montecito, and it really was a thing. And there'd be like weekly, there'd be like 70 people at the house, and then my parents took care of all of them. They didn't have like help or cook or anything like that. They just did it, right? So maybe it's just in my family vibe. But I love that. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of how I've like interacted with all those people and like that they mostly have a good time and that the actors have like a good time. So beyond the film, all that stuff, that's all kind of BS in a way. The actual direct human experience is the higher measure, and I am proud of how all that's gone down. Is that your question? What I'm proud of? Yeah. Yeah.
When you think about the future, how do you imagine it will be?
I've grown to really regret having asked all those kids that question, because I find that question really scary and hard personally. Like it's really kind of gnarly. There's so much to be anxious about, and to ask kids that question is sort of it worked really great in the film. I've grown to worry it was slightly exploitive. But okay, the world's really weird. There's climate crisis. There's like, isn't America going to turn into an authoritarian regime? There's like so many scary ass things in the world, more pandemics, all this, right? At the same time, like, so my kids in 4th grade, the school they go to is all about like neurodivergence. The world they live in as a non-binary person is so much more open-minded and amazing and like advanced and kind of beautiful than my 9-10-year-old version of the world. The way I feel like people are like just so much more open and intelligent about all of our differences and how to respect them and how to take care of each other and stuff like that. So it's kind of like these opposite things are happening. I kind of feel like there's so many ways. Hopper has a therapist who's a trans man, and he's just the most intelligent, amazing, mind-blowing person I've ever met. And just that's part of our normal family life, and that's part of their school, and that's part of our society, to me is so positive and so interesting and so new and great. So I feel like there's real contradictory forces at play. Who knows?
What will stay with you and what will you forget?
So sadly, you forget everything. Wait till you get to be 56. You forget everything. And everything kind of goes by. So that's why I make the movies. It's a real it's a fear of mine that everything goes by, or that you kind of forget things, or So that's really my job for me personally, is figuring out ways to kind of like hold on to it just a little bit longer, and that's why I made those last 3 movies. But yeah, it all slips by and transforms. Call me later.
What are you inspired by and excited by?
Some other movies I really love, and they're just so mind blowing, and this is like an art, just different art. Let's see, and music. I love music so much. I play music all the time when I'm writing, when I'm thinking, when I'm editing. Right now, I'm working a little bit with Leslie Feist, the singer Feist, and like her music's really mind blowing and just very alive and like just amazing. My dog inspires me. He's McGee, come here. Hey, psst. McGee, come here. He's his main job, his main interest in life is like getting petted and like laying on me and my kid. And it's just like radical love. It really is. It's like his whole game is like love. He's like a love species. And I'm into that. I would really truly find that like really simple and easy and healing and great. McGee, come here. I just good about you. So good job. Come here. You can almost.
Will you answer the next question?
You can almost speak English. It's like right on the edge of articulating English.
Yeah. If you could give us one homework assignment, what would it be?
Wow. Okay. Are you gonna do it? So I really do look up to journalists and like. Do you guys listen to This American Life? You ever listen to it? Radio show on NPR? You guys should. It's really amazing. And it's about just everyday lives and sometimes about big newsworthy things, but often just about really simple everyday things. And this guy, Ira Glass, started it, and I got to meet him, and he's really one of my heroes, and he's a journalist, but of like things big and small, maybe you'd say. So a piece of homework I would, coming from me and just relating to our conversation is in some form, could be written, could be audio, could be still pictures, could be drawings, could be whatever. Just make a portrait, make a documentary about a family member that's like right in your house, you know? And then you have to deal with all these issues of like, are you going to say the truth about them and all the bad things and the good things? Or are you going to, how do you make a portrait of someone? Is it about their history, or is it just like what happened today? Is it how they treat animals, or what is it? Is it just by saying one little thing, or is it about trying to describe the whole person? So how about that? Is that boring?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Quite a interesting assignment. when you compare it to all the the essays and slides, presentations, essays.
Yeah.
Those all just blend together.
Yeah. It'd be cool. How about it's just audio too? It's like a radio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for meeting with us today.
That's really sweet.
Yeah.
It's funny. You're very formal and you're very young at the same time. Really, yeah, I'm impressed that you guys. Thank you guys for coming all the way down here and for choosing to do an interview with me. I'm really honored, and for reading all that stuff I said and blah blah blahing all over the place. That was nice of you to like do all your research. I love doing research. It's like, it's empowering, it's interesting, and it's kind of like polite to whoever you're with. So I appreciate that. Thank you guys. Yeah.